In this video, we continue our study of Jesus' messages to the 7 churches in Revelation chapters 2 and 3. And we want to conclude our study of Jesus' 6th message to the church in Philadelphia, Revelation 3 verses 7 to 13. And we want to pick up on verse 10. And I mentioned last time that Jesus' message to this church is full of promises. And we will see in this passage that there is a lot of promises that Jesus is making to this church and therefore also to us if we remain faithful to Him. He says in verse 10, "Because you've kept my word about patient endurance," or literally, "You've kept the word of my patience, I will keep you from the hour of trial that is coming on the whole world to try those who dwell on the earth." Now, this hour of trial or testing that is coming upon the world refers to the visions that John is going to have in chapters 4 through 16 of Revelation, and the judgments that are going to come upon the sinful world, those who do not know the Lord. And the promise to keep us, I believe it refers to God's ability to preserve us in the midst of difficulty and trial, and even of judgment until the end. Jesus uses the same language concerning the disciples in his prayer in John chapter 17 and verse 15, when he prays, "I do not ask that you take them out of the world, but that you keep them from the evil one." Jesus uses very similar language here. And the prayer obviously is not that God would remove his followers from this world, but that in the midst of evil and in the midst of trial and difficulty, God would preserve us, that we would remain faithful to the Lord until the end when he comes again for us. And speaking of Jesus' return, in verse 11 he says, "I'm coming soon. Hold fast what you have, so that no one may seize your crown." To hold fast means to continue in the Lord, to remain faithful to Him and not to give up, but to continue following Him. And Jesus promises us an eternal reward. And speaking of eternal rewards, finally in verse 12, we have the promise to the one who conquers, to the one who is victorious, to the one who remains faithful to the Lord until the end. And this is actually quite a lengthy promise. Jesus promises several things to this church if they conquer. He says, "I will make him a pillar in the temple of my God. Never shall he go out of it. I will write on him the name of my God and the name of the city of my God, the New Jerusalem, which comes down from my God out of heaven, and my own new name." Now, all of these things in verse 12 that Jesus promises to the church relate to the idea of permanence. And I think this would have had special significance to the Philadelphians because, you see, there was one major problem with living in Philadelphia. It was prone to earthquakes. In fact, there had been such a devastating earthquake in AD 17, about 60, 70 years before John had written Revelation. It had destroyed the entire city of Philadelphia. And it was so bad that the inhabitants of the city had to move out. They had to move out of the city of Philadelphia and wait for the city to be rebuilt and before they could return. And so I think the promise here that Jesus says, "I'm going to make you a pillar in my temple, and you're not going to have to move out," speaks to the fact that if you remain in me, I'm going to make you a citizen of my city, the heavenly city, the New Jerusalem, and no earthquake can destroy this city. There's nothing and no one that can make you have to move out of it. You're going to stay with me in my city forever. And likewise, the idea of, Jesus writing his name and the name of my God and the name of my city. You know, the city of Philadelphia, the name of the city had been changed in John's day several times, from Neo-Caesarea to Flavia. And so once again, the idea here is in contrast to life in this world, which is ever-changing, always shifting, unreliable. Jesus is promising a permanent, eternal reward. You are going to be citizens of my kingdom. I'm going to write your name. I'm going to write my name and my Father's name on your foreheads. And if you compare this with chapter 14 and chapter 22 of Revelation, John's visions of heaven in Revelation, oftentimes he talks about how we will have the name of the Lamb and the name of God written on our foreheads. And once again, it reminds us of the fact that we belong to him. We are his, and we will be with him forever. You know, I think that's important for us to remember today. We sure have gone through our share of change in this over the last couple of years with the pandemic and all kinds of other groundbreaking events that have caused so much instability and insecurity in our world. And in the world that is insecure and full of change, it's comforting for us to know that if we follow the Lord and we remain faithful to him, there is nothing and no one who can shake, who can change our destiny, what God has spoken over us, that we belong to him and we will be with him forever. Thank you for watching. Tune in next time as we look at the final message of Jesus to the church in Laodicea. Thank you for watching.